You can turn on your mic and share your screen, and as soon as you do that, we could get started. You got it, buddy? Okay.
Hi, Dale.
Hey, Adam, how are you? I hear you.
Doing well.
You could share your screen too, buddy. So you're the presenter. I'm the organizer. So you probably haven't used the GoToMeeting room in a while. So I see you. Let's make sure everyone sees Adam. Everyone see him? Should be your screen. It's okay. Okay. Yeah, they see you. Okay, Adam. So, God, it's been a year or so since I've talked to you, and it looks like your new life is serving you well. You look well rested, although you have a young child and a wife and everything. It's my hope that your new life is made you even a greater trader than you were before. Have you noticed a difference?
Definitely less sleep. I mean, you got to do it on less sleep with a young family. That's for sure. No, I mean, everything's going great. No complaints at all. I'm actually just building a new office here, so it's not quite ready, but slowly piecing it together. And I've got this like sit-stand desk now that I'm trying out. So we'll see how that goes. But stand up if I feel a little more productive and a little more energetic. So.
And there was some type of major development with Forex Live, and what was it? Is it Forex Magnets or a company out of Israel? Why don't you tell us about that?
Oh, sure. I mean, I still run the site, but we went into a partnership with them, and that they are able to take all the business development, all the technical development, and just let us focus on Forex analysis now, which is what I really like. I was spending far too much of my time over the last few years on website development and business development. So it wasn't something that I was super passionate about. Whereas the market is just, for me, it's everything. And now it's 100% of my focus. I'm doing analysis and content and sorting out what's going on, which is really more than a full-time job as it is. So yeah, we went into a partnership with them, and they handle that now, and it's freed me up to do what I love. So I couldn't be happier. Congratulations
on that, my trading warrior brother. And I also wanted to ask you. I know I used to have you on when we did this at FX Street at the beginning of the month because your seasonal work was so strong. So I know we're mid-April, tax day here in the U.S. coming up, but how did the April seasonals work out from what you saw at the beginning of the month? Now that we've covered your family, we could talk about pips and talk about instruments. And, I know the position that you took, being a married man and a father, is a leap. It's a long-term option that doesn't decay. It's the rest of your life type of position. So that's your long-term stuff. What are you seeing in here with all the geo stuff going on? And I haven't talked to you since the U.S. election, and now we have France coming up here. Why don't we start there? What are you seeing or anticipating with the French elections and the impact on different markets?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, to take it back, the seasonals haven't been as strong this year. I think the election threw a bit of a kink into it. Some things worked really well. Gold at the start of the year really took off, and since then, if March was a poor month for the seasonal patterns, it was a strong time for the euro, and it hasn't worked out. And part of that goes to the French election as well, which has been a headwind. And that's coming up less than 2 weeks away. This four-way race has really opened up, and what we get these daily polls on the French election, and it always shows the same thing. And what I find strange about the election polls is there's so little variation. You'll see maybe a 0.5 percentage point move between Macron and Le Pen and anyone else there over a day, whereas if you remember almost any other election or any other poll, you'll see 2 or 3 percentage points of variance. And that's just the standard deviation. That's the margin of error in the poll, and I find it strange that France has it, it's so low in a lot of the French polls. But the other thing we're watching is the high level of undecideds. There's still a lot of undecideds in the French election polls. So you see these polls, and I think the market's become a little bit complacent because the polls have been so complacent, or they move so slowly, but there are still a high level of undecideds. And so the euro risks may be higher than the market's anticipating. But that said, Le Pen, even if she can get through to the second round, is this distant favor, or distant chance of winning the thing, because polling head-to-head against almost anyone, she's so far behind. But a big story, I guess, coming into the final 2 weeks is Mélenchon, and his sort of rise. It seems to have topped out a little bit, but for Le Pen, Mélenchon, second round, that would be, well, like Schäuble said, the German finance minister, he said that would be a nightmare scenario. So it would be a big,
you know, polling is, you're saying you're not getting much from the polls. Well, even though when there's been variance, polling has really taken a hit in the last 12 months, hasn't it, buddy? Starting with Brexit, and then the polls being wrong about Trump, and here we are again with the polls. What do you think is changing? You know, in the U.S. election, I think a lot of people were tight-lipped about their support of Trump, and it didn't show up in the poll because they were, I don't know, just hesitant to share that they would be in favor of such a controversial figure. And maybe the same thing is happening in France, that, you know, I'm still having arguments with my wife is more conservative than me, and you know, it made for a pretty tense Thanksgiving period among even families if you had different political views. So you think that could be part of it, because people aren't actively participating in the polls, or like maybe they're telling the pollsters I'm undecided when they really are decided because they don't want to share it.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it. I mean, the electoral college was a bit. I mean, Hillary did win the popular vote, but if you look at polling in a state like Florida, it goes to your point. People were just quiet about it, and I think, you know, it can go both ways with the undecideds. I think a lot of people are undecided till the end, and they swing. There are these big, heavy swings at the end of campaigns, and people are waiting right until the last minute to decide. And that may be what's happening in France. And these polls as well, I think, have given both candidates and voters a false sense of security. Turnout was a big factor in the American election. I mean, so many polls were showing Hillary ahead and not emphasizing the undecideds. And then people didn't show up on election day and were supporters.
Yeah, I think the lowest voter turnout in 40 years or 70 years, people just not knowing what to do, throwing off their... It's kind of a dangerous thing when people begin to decide to be discouraged about the political process and not voicing their votes.
Right, and I think it's just different levels. I mean, I think before you had these models where everybody's engagement level was sort of similar. But then if you look at Trump supporters, for instance, they were so engaged, and the model might have shown them 70% likely to show up and vote, where in reality they were like 95% likely to show up because they became so engaged, whether by the internet or 24/7 news, the models of who is showing up to vote, I think, is part of the issue. And so France, you know, I think once again there's this complacency, and you think it's bizarre after Brexit, after Trump. There's a lot of other elections as well that haven't followed the polls, but I see it again in the markets and complacency here. But so again, what do you do, right? What do you do as an analyst? You look at the polls. You kind of have to live and die by them, because you can't just...
Maybe we should look at, Adam, maybe we should look at euro pound being a better indicator than the polls. You know, we're only around 60, 70 pips away from a major breakdown. A lot of people looking at a head and shoulders formation. Maybe that's a catalyst to finally get a breakdown. And cable has been favored over this euro uncertainty based upon what euro pound has been doing. You have a view on cable itself, which has been pretty buoyant since the breakdown under, you know, the 08 lows of 135. A lot of people I know are still pretty constructive on the pound. There's a few people that still think that we could trade maybe 115. You have a view on cable and EG?
Yeah, I mean, cable's very strong today, and I like the upside. I think the upside, it can come any time. I mean, Article 50 for me, there's been a lot of shorts piling in. If you look at the CFTC numbers just from Friday, they were showing again net cable shorts at a record high, and a lot of that money is underwater or right at the underwater point here now. And if you can get that squeeze up over 128, then I think cable can really start to take off, and you start to see euro sterling hit the skids at the same time. I think the market's just looking for a catalyst here, be it some good news from the Bank of England or the pound, because I really don't see the potential for a lot of bad news. Sure, negotiations on Brexit will go up and down, and it'll stretch out for 2+ years. But what's the catalyst for cable to go lower from here, especially in something from the euro? And then the other big story with euro is that inflation really isn't materializing, and I think that's the next big theme in markets.
So therefore, because inflation isn't manifesting, a lot of people are saying that the ECB could be on the verge of perhaps even a tightening. So you don't see that in the cards.
No, I don't, and I think it's everywhere. There was this few months where UK ECB is going to tighten, but Draghi has done well to tampen down that enthusiasm. So the euro downside might be a little bit less. With the US dollar, the downside, I think could be a bit more there. But in general, I think it is probably good just for risk assets as the Fed moves to the sidelines. We say, okay. I mean, it's the balance, though, right? You have growth also is going to falter along with weak inflation. And I think the future, it just ends up looking a lot like the past. And we muddle along, and this big takeoff isn't happening. And what's the disappointment there? Well, it's probably an easier call on something like yen strength or volatility.
Okay. Yeah, we had a little pickup in vol last week from 11 to 16, and I want to go to the yen since it really is the linchpin for a lot of markets. It moves counter to gold. I know you're focused on what's happening in gold. We're testing some major resistance. It could be a breakout there, and a lot of people are looking for spots to buy yen, starting to look at some yen crosses. You have a view on what's happening here in U.S. dollar yen?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a big breakdown already, and you have a little bit of support. I'm down just below 108 at the 61.8% retracement of the move since the election. And that's, to me, that's the last chance for the dollar yen bulls. The stock market looks a little bit healthier today, but if that comes unhinged, I think this disappointment trade is starting to come together. Seasonally as well, you get into May, you get into the summer months, it starts to be a weaker seasonal period.
You think sell in May and go away is going to work in equities this year, Adam?
I mean, it has been a poor trade, but it is setting up pretty nicely. If you look at the lower highs in the stock market, you're starting to get some lower lows. I mean, the close on Friday was the worst since middle of February. Not a lot of support there. And, geopolitics, sure, we're shrugging it off a little bit today, but, there's a lot more uncertainty in terms of the bombs falling. But really, it comes back to the economy. Empire Fed today was weak. Retail sales were weak on Friday. Nobody's putting up the numbers since the confidence that have turned into, this business investment, this actual growth in the economy. Q1 is going to be weak in a lot of places. So
you think yen could trade subpar, sub 100 in the coming months?
Yeah, you get back down to that 10, 103 sort of level first. I mean, then you start to run into the Bank of Japan once you get close to 100 on the jawboning. But really, it's not like they turned hawkish and can go back. Like there's not a lot more they can do besides threaten intervention and that sort of thing. And after I don't know if you read the Treasury report came out on Friday. I mean, Japan was in there again. Don't think Trump is going to take very kindly to anyone who's intervening. So you can get back down below 100. That's definitely going to set off some alarm bells at the Bank of Japan. But I think the first trade is just to get it there and retrace the election rally and keep an eye on stocks.
Yeah, gold's almost there. It's almost retraced from the high of the election day here in the U.S. I think it was 100 in the end. So a lot of things are, the Dixie would have to get back down to about 96, I believe. That was pre-election levels. A lot of people are having trouble trading your native currency, Adam. The loonie has really been a chop fest. Do you have a view on that? I was thinking maybe one more break to 31. And do you think that the correlation between the loonie and oil has become more of a disconnect than a connect here?
Yeah, people get a little bit in love with that connection, and then what happens is you get a range, and then it doesn't matter anymore until you know the range breaks in oil. And it sort of did, but CAD just wants to see a little bit more conviction. It was right to be hesitant. Now we're back up to 53. But on the technicals, sometimes it'll break your heart, and sometimes it's the retirement trade. It seems to break big levels and then run, and then when it range trades and breaks out, it fakes you out a lot of the time.
You have a longer term view. I guess the two camps are 120 or 150.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the bullish side. I think the numbers can't. I mean, you can't. These numbers have been super strong from Canada all year long. Very strong employment, great growth numbers, and the Bank of Canada has leaned against it. And I think if the Bank of Canada were a little bit more optimistic or constructive, you'd be down in the 123, 124 level, or even 120 right now. And they could justifiably do that, but I think they want to keep the Canadian dollar weak. But the real wild card is housing. It's out of control. I don't know if outside of Canada you get the headlines, but this whole Toronto area, which is a big part of the country, is up 33% year over year. And that's after many years of 8, 10, 12% growth. I mean, tiny little houses out in the suburbs in Toronto are selling for 1.2, 1.4. It's spread to the surrounding, like, 200-300 miles away from Toronto. It's the same thing, and it's really just out of
Is it foreign money? Is it, there's been a lot of flight capital from China, although now their capital controls seem to be a little bit more effective. I know that when I sold my house a few years ago, there was, Chinese coming in with suitcases full of cash.
Yeah, and that's absolutely it. And I think, at some point that's the main factor. Urbanization, everybody's living in the cities, so on and so forth. But at some point, it's just become a mania. Whereas anyone who's buying at any price thinks the price is going up. It's been 20 years since Canada's had 25 years since Canada's had any kind of house price correction. And I just think it's just nonsense at this point, where you have most of the people in this country thinking the prices are going to go up forever. Or, there's a little 5% dip, that's all it can take. And it's just really, really way beyond sustainable. But people have been saying this since 2009, and I've been one to sort of lean against it and say, it can go up farther than you think. But we're really at the parabolic point here now, where you have a bunch of 10% years, and then it just goes straight up. I mean, it's like an Amazon chart here right now. It's out of control. And that will somehow bust. I mean, there's a lot of talk about rent controls and different taxes coming in right now, and that's what will bust it. And that's the sort of thing that can put dollar CAD up to, like, they can start a banking crisis and get it up to 150. But the timing on that is really just impossible to pick when a bubble will pop. And so I think for now, the better trade is to be long dollar CAD. Because if housing were to bust, it would be so epic and so long that you'd have plenty of time, I think, to get into that trade. But barring that, I'd like the Canadian dollar.
Okay, Adam. So when we talk about what you do at Forex Live, your content, and people can follow you on Twitter and go to Forex Live, and you have any feeling about what happened? I know the peso suffered quite a bit going into the election. Some people looking at potential low developing in peso. You have any view on U.S. dollar MEX?
Yeah, I like it as well. I mean, the the bark has been a lot worse than the bite in the new administration so far. I think if you look at the real options in terms of NAFTA, there's not that much they can do to Mexico without getting into the World Trade Organization trouble. You know, Mexico has been beaten down so bad. I mean, I've been saying for years that the best investment in the entire world is Acapulco real estate, because you can get it for nothing. It's on the beach. I mean, it's a bloodbath down there. But one day it will clean up. But I like Mexico. I like the trade. If you look at that chart, it looks strong. I don't know if today is really the day to get involved. But any round, I think, of dollar Mexican strength is something to lean into. Because this has probably been the top. I mean, there was a real fear trade there, and I guess we're at the end of it now.
Well, you know, eloquent as usual, Adam, and a great presentation. And I want to thank you for taking time to come into Face, and Blake thanks you and the whole team for you coming by to share your views. I hope that perhaps we could do this maybe at the beginning of the month, so you could share your seasonal work. I'm sure it's going to kick in again, and may pips and blessings chase you and your family down and your company down in the coming days. And I really enjoyed us getting back together again, Adam.
Yeah, no, we got to get back into the rhythm here. We're a little bit out of the rhythm, me and you, Dale. So we'll get a little bit of a presentation.
Yeah, practice makes perfect, and I was very excited to talk to you again. It's great to be doing interviews again and talking to top guns like Adam Button. So thanks again for your time, brother.
Risen from the dead, just in Easter spirit here. I got to give a shout out to the hockey playoffs here in Canada, and my Boston Bruins are my team, which is the American team. So.
Okay, buddy.
One sure thing bet on the Bruins.
All right. Well, all I could say is, Adam, every time I talk to you, it's a hat trick.
Hey, all right.
All right, buddy. So thanks so much, Adam. Great to talk to you again, and good hunting. And let's do it again maybe at the beginning of next month, and we could talk seasonals.
Let's do it. Thanks, Dale. Have a great week.
Thank you very much. Adam Button, you could follow Adam at Adam. Follow him at FX_Button or at Forex Live. So a great interview. Okay, thank you, Jess. The webcam slows down the connection. So that's it for me, everybody. I hope everyone had a great session. Lots of ideas from Forex Stop Hunter, which is me. We have some nice setups. Blake. You know, I think that this content that we present every day is tough to beat. So thanks for your attention. You know, everyone's most precious currency is time. Thanks for spending some time with us here every day. And it's our mission to edify and build up traders every day. I hope it's adding value to what you want to accomplish as a market participant. So see everyone for Turnaround Tuesday. Europe should be back in full swing tomorrow, and you could count on ForexAnalytix being in full swing every time I hit the start broadcast button. So don't just count your pips, count your blessings. You're very welcome, Kelvin. You're welcome, Kevin, Oscar, Forex Gal, Ronit. Nice to see you in here. Jess, thank you. You're welcome, Hardianto and Jerry. And Gary, I'll see you tomorrow. Adios. You're welcome, also.